Happy Friday, Wildcats! We made it another week together and we've read so much of our chapter book. We are going to move on to chapter 6 today. That night, after supper, the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," I hollered, running to see who it was. It was Mouse. "Hi," she said. "Come on out." I opened the screen door and stepped outside onto the front porch. "How was your swimming lesson?" she asked. "It was fine," I said. "I used to do a lot of swimming when I was a little kid, but..." Moose didn't let me finish. But where you come from, nobody ever goes swimming, right?" "Kind of," I said. "If a person doesn't know how to do something, a person should just admit it, don't you think?" Mouse said. "Oh, sure," I told her. "If there was something I couldn't do, I'd be the first to admit it." "Me too," Mouse said. "Like, for instance, I can't do cartwheels. I've tried and tried, but I just can't get my legs up straight. Now, what can't you do?" "Oh, I can't do cartwheels either. At least I don't think I can. I've never even tried." "Try now," Mouse said. "Now? What for?" "Just to see if you can or you can't." "I can't. I'm sure I can't." "Okay. There's another thing I can't do," Mouse said. "I can't do a backward flip into the pool." "Neither can I told her. "Because you can't swim, right?" "Well, I don't swim much, and I don't dive at all." "You mean you can't?" "That's right," I said. "I can't dive at all." Mouse smiled. "I brought you something." "You did?" "Yeah." She reached into her pocket and held up a green yo-yo. She handed it to me. "It's a genuine Duncan Imperial, the very best there is." "Thanks." I turned it over and read what it said. "I haven't had a yo-yo in ages." "Since you were about 2, right?" "That's right." "Tell you what," Mouse said. "Since you don't remember much about working it, how would it be if I taught you how to do tricks?" "Well, I really don't need lessons because I'll probably remember how to do all my old tricks as soon as I practice a little. But if you want to show me your way, I wouldn't mind." "Good," Mouse said. "We'll start tomorrow. I've got to go home now. My mother doesn't like me walking around in the dark." Mouse turned and started down the front walk. I was already planning how I'd be able to tell the kids in the city that my own private yo-yo teacher was none other than the junior champion of Tarrytown herself. The next day, I asked Marty if he could teach me to dive like Betsy Ellis, but without getting my face wet. He said, "Impossible!" And the more I thought about it, the more I knew he was right. So I said we'd have to forget about diving. Marty asked me how I planned to get into the pool when I learned to swim, and I told him, down the ladder, same as getting out. I spent 3 more days just practicing how to kick. Then Marty decided it was time to learn what to do with my arms. He held me in the water and told me to move them back and forth. I was so scared I held on to Marty with one arm and only moved the other. He said that was okay, that he had plenty of time, 2 months if necessary, because my mother told him not to rush me. She didn't want me to become more afraid than I already was. And she said she would pay for lessons all summer if she had to, because she had a feeling that 15 lessons weren't going to be enough. But I'd better know how to swim by then, or she'd want her money back. And Marty had promised her I would. He really needs the money for college, he told me. Like, I shouldn't let him down. So I said, okay, and I tried letting go of him. He kept his hand under me so I wouldn't get scared and stop trying. But whenever I used my arms, I forgot about my legs. And when I remembered and started to kick my legs, I'd forget about my arms. I think Marty almost gave up on me today. After my lesson, I joined Mouse and some of the other kids. The thing I hate most is when one kid dunks another. The only way to avoid that is to stay out of the water, which is what I do. Mouse says everyone knows that I am a beginner and no one would dunk me, but I'm not so sure. Libby has a crush on a lifeguard named Freddie. He has very hairy legs. Libby says he is just the most terrific boy she has ever met. But Libby says that about every boy she meets. She hangs around his lifeguard chair all afternoon, and when he is off duty, she runs to get him a soda. My mother says he is much too old for her, and she should find some friends her own age. Then Libby cries, "But Mother, he's only 17, and I am practically 14, and that's just perfect." My mother doesn't think so, and she says if Libby keeps pestering him, he could lose his job. The Sunday after Mom said that, Freddie brought a friend to the pool. She sat next to his lifeguard chair all afternoon. She is much older than Libby. I would say she is at least 16, and she doesn't look like a skeleton in her bikini either. Now Libby stays away from Freddie. She says she never really liked him anyway. And who wants a boyfriend with all that hair on his legs? I said. Libby gave me a kick. The end. That was a fast chapter today, Wildcats. Let's see if we have some more time together. You want to read chapter 7 too? Okay. Let's read it. Chapter 7. We go to day camp every weekday from 9 o'clock until 3 o'clock. Then we go to the pool from 3:30 to 5:30. We are always so busy going somewhere that I can't believe we have been in Tarrytown for 2 whole weeks. One night before Daddy got home, I arranged my shoes in the front hall with the toes pointing toward the den. Then I hid behind the drapes and waited. But between the den and the front hall was the living room and the dining room. I heard Daddy come into the house and call, "Hello, I'm home." I hoped when he saw my shoes, he would come and find me right away, because there weren't any lights on in the den, and the sky was getting darker every second. It was beginning to thunder. I don't like thunderstorms. Daddy had told me a million times that the lightning isn't going to get me, and I want to believe him, but I can't. I never should have hidden so far away. I should have gone into the closet in the front hall. Then I'd have been near the kitchen, where Libby and Mom were. I wondered what was taking Daddy so long. And what were those funny noises? I wish somebody would turn on the lights. I wasn't having fun at all. Maybe Daddy had forgotten about me. Maybe he wasn't even looking. I decided then and there that I would have to tell him I don't want to play this game anymore. Not in this house. I hope he wouldn't think it was because I'm chicken. That's what Libby would say. She'd make her cackling noise and laugh at me. When I couldn't stand it behind the drapes for another second, I crawled out and made my way back into the living room on all fours. Finally, Mom shouted, "Sheila, come out right now or dinner will be ruined." I was really happy when she said that. I ran into the kitchen and told Daddy if it is going to take him that long to find me every night, we'll never get to eat. So he agreed that we will stop our game for the summer. Now Libby will never know the truth, so she won't have to call me chicken. Every night after dinner, Daddy unchains Jennifer and lets her run around loose. He says she needs the exercise. She tears around the yard yelping. I watch from my bedroom window. Daddy and Libby and Jennifer have a lot of fun playing games. Libby throws a ball and Jennifer catches it in her mouth, and Daddy has taught her to roll over and play dead. Both Mom and Daddy say I'm silly to hide upstairs and miss all the fun. Well, maybe I am, but I just can't help it. I wonder why I had to be born like me instead of like Libby, who isn't afraid of anything. Sometimes it doesn't seem fair. At least I'm getting used to sleeping in a room by myself. I'm not so scared at night now. I just make sure that my ear is always covered with my blanket. I don't know why, but I can't stand having my ears sticking out when I sleep. I do that too, Wildcats. Anyway, this house is not nearly as spooky as Mouse's. Hers is much bigger and much older. They don't even use all the rooms upstairs. I asked Mouse if it scares her to live in a place like that, and she said she never thought about it. She has always lived in the same house, and before that, her mother's family lived in it, and someday she might get married and live there too. She said a long time ago, Washington Irving slept in her house. Who's he? I asked. Is he related to George? I laughed at my own joke. You mean you don't know about Washington Irving? No, I never heard of him, I told her. You mean you were going into 5th grade and you still never heard about Washington Irving? I told you, no. Who is he anyway? Well, I just can't believe it, Mouse said. What's wrong with all those schools in New York City? If you know so much about him, why don't you tell me who he is at least? Oh, I will. I just can't believe that you don't already know. That's all, Mouse said. Go on, I told her. I'm listening. Well, he was a very famous writer. What did he write? I asked. Oh, he wrote Rip Van Winkle and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I heard of Rip Van Winkle, I said. He slept for a long time, but I never heard about Sleepy Hollow. You never heard about Sleepy Hollow in Ichabod Crane? That's right, I said. You people in Tarrytown have a lot of useless information. If this Ichabod Crane was so important, I've heard about him in New York. Well, all I can tell you is that the Headless Horseman rode through here, Mouse said, spreading her arms. Right through Tarrytown. So naturally, it's important to us. How many towns do you think have a Headless Horseman riding through them? The stories that they're talking about, Wildcats, are spooky stories. What do you mean, headless? I asked. Oh, he was this man on a horse, and he had no head, and Ichabod Crane saw him and got very scared. But it's just a story, right? I mean, there's no such thing as a headless horseman. Well, Mouse said, it's kind of a story, but I believe it. In fact, I've heard him around here lately. Haven't you? Heard what? The headless horseman. If you listen at night, you can hear this eerie noise, and that's him haunting Tarrytown. I don't believe you, I said. I don't care if you do or don't. People who live in Tarrytown all year long know it's the truth. What does he do? I asked. Does he kill people? Oh, no, nothing like that. He just rides around haunting. You know, like a ghost. There's no such thing as ghosts, I said. Maybe there is. Maybe there isn't. I had a lot of trouble sleeping after Mouse told me that. I asked my father, did he know about Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman? And he said, sure. It's a very famous story. Do you believe it? I asked. It's just a story, Sheila. But there might be a Headless Horseman. No. Washington Irving invented him. But he lived around here, didn't he? Yeah, but so what? Well, I said, suppose he really saw this Headless Horseman and thought nobody would believe him, so instead he wrote a story about him. You see? No, I don't see, Daddy said. It's all made up. I'll bring you a book of his stories and you can read them. Then you'll understand. No, I shouted. I don't want to read about any Headless Horseman. After that, whenever I heard noises at night, I knew it was the Headless Horseman haunting Tarrytown. I wished it was September and we could go back to the city where there isn't room for any kind of horseman to go haunting at night. Chapter 8. All right, Wildcats, I'm going to bookmark us there. And for today's question, I'm going to go a little off topic. I want to know what you plan on doing this weekend. I know we're still at home. I know we can't go to the park or a friend's house yet. But what are you going to do this weekend to stay exercising and having fun and spending time with your family? Do you have any plans? What are you going to do? If you don't have a plan yet, maybe you could ask your family right now and say, what should we do this weekend? If you already have a plan, you can ring to Wilbur, practice typing it out, or even write it out. I'd love to know. All right. Bye, Wildcats. Have a great weekend. Keep washing your hands, and I can't wait until I see you again soon. I love you, and I miss you. We'll read together on Monday. Bye-bye.